Hey, it's Brendan here. Thanks for checking out the site. I thought I'd make you this short video just to explain how our standard speedfix works. Let me walk you through the page here. So our standard speedfix, we have a target time here with this service of under 3 seconds. So we use tools.pingdom.com as our primary speed test tool. Now, most sites that we run this service through or run through this service, they end up somewhere around 1.5 second load time in the country where the site is hosted. And often it can be faster if the site is listed on our fastest host lists. Generally, for international traffic to that site, you can expect the site to be 0.5 second to 0.8 of a second slower internationally. So if the site loads in about 1.5 seconds in North America or the US, you would expect it to be about 0.5 second slower in Australia or in the UK. So just keep that in mind. So as I said, we use the Pingdom speed test tool as our primary speed tester because it is the closest to real world speed. It gives us a nice raw speed. It's very consistent and it allows us to test from multiple locations. So this service is performed on your existing hosting plan. So we don't move your hosting at all. And this is really best suited for small business websites or lower traffic websites that just need a general speed once over. And it's not designed for page speed insights, and it's not designed for GTmetrix. We've really built it around Pingdom. That's really the tool that this service is built around. So in terms of what we do, there's more than 100 steps in this process. So someone asked me the other day, what do you do? Do you just install a caching plugin and image compression? So let me talk you through. We do a lot more than that, but let me talk you through the highlights. So as I said, we optimize you on your existing WordPress hosting. So we set up browser caching and we tune that appropriately. We set up page caching. Now we use W3 Total Cache as our caching plugin. It is the fastest caching plugin. There's lots of page cache plugins out there, but it is by far the fastest, but it's also quite complex to configure. So we have a particular way we configure it. And then if your host supports more advanced caching, so if your host has a piece of software installed called memcached, we'll also configure database and object caching. So this will actually give the website a lot more juice, particularly if you're on if you're running WooCommerce. So not all hosts support this. Only a handful of hosts will have this. Typically, they are faster. They're on our fastest host lists usually. We do CSS and JavaScript optimization, tuning, minification, and combining as supported by your theme. This is an important point to make. Not all themes and not all websites allow you to really heavily optimize JavaScript and CSS. Doing so breaks it. So just keep that in mind if that is something that on your wish list, I guess, or it's on the list of things you want checked off. More complex themes and older themes will be more sensitive to CSS and JavaScript optimization. It's made, there's a big deal made out of it by speed testing tools, but it's not such a big deal. Particularly the minification doesn't really matter. The web hosting has something called gzip, so it's a type of compression that all hosting is using already, and if your hosting doesn't have it, we configure it for you. The data, your CSS and JavaScript files are already compressed when they're sent to you. So minification is a tiny optimization on top of that in terms of file size. So you can ignore it. So it's not a big deal. We do some database optimization, we do some cleanup, and we schedule routine maintenance or regular maintenance to keep your database running really nice and fast. We optimize some of your 301 redirects. So this is a fairly important one, particularly around redirects from HTTP to HTTPS. So we do some optimization there to speed that up. We do backups before and after. So the first thing we do before touching anything, we do some backups. So we back up the site. We use a plugin called Blog Vault. So backup before we start, and when we're done, we provide a backup as well. We do some tuning to your htaccess file, so we do some optimization there. Quite often people have garbage in their htaccess file. They've added stuff over the years, so we remove any crud that's in there that's slowing you down. We look at your plugins, so sometimes people have duplicate plugins installed. They might have 2 SEO plugins, or they might have an SEO plugin and then a sitemap plugin that's also, that functionality is duplicated from the SEO plugin. So we just review plugins and we recommend pruning as needed. So not all sites will have this, but some do. Server compression tuning, like I said, we make sure you've got gzip set up and we tune that as required. If your website's not running in HTTPS, we set that up. So that's a really important one from both a speed perspective and SEO. So Google has publicly stated that HTTPS sites rank higher. It's really important for privacy for your visitors, what means the data is encrypted when they're talking to the website. And it also allows you to use this newer, if your host supports it, this newer HTTP2 protocol, which is much faster. It will only work if you have HTTPS set up. We will upgrade your PHP version if your site supports it. So if you're running an older version of PHP, so 5.6 or older, we'll upgrade that. We will fix 404 errors with images and basic 404 errors that are hurting your speed. We set you up with Cloudflare. This is an optional one, but highly recommended. So we do content delivery network setup. We use Cloudflare by default. The free plan is fine for most websites. So there's no ongoing cost with Cloudflare. And if you don't have a content delivery network now, that will make a big difference to the speed, particularly for international visitors or when the hosting is under high load. We set up something called HTTP2 push. This is part of this HTTP2 protocol. Now, not all sites support this. And we also need Cloudflare installed to do it, or Cloudflare setup. So this one is, it's not optional, but it's not supported by all hosts and not supported by all websites. So just keep that in mind. We do some DNS record optimization. So there's a little bit of tuning we can do in there for speed. A lot of people don't realize that DNS hosting is an important part of speed optimization. It's mostly ignored by most people. But this is something we do, and it's also one of the reasons why we recommend Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is a DNS hosting provider as well, and it's the fastest in the world. We set up Google Tag Manager. This is an optional one as well. If you need more information on Google Tag Manager, just Google that and you'll find the website. But we set this up and we do something, if you have live chat, we lazy load it. So you'll see these 2 points here. So what that means is we add a small delay into your live chat software loading up. So almost all live chat software is very, very heavy. So what we do is add a small delay. So the website loads without the live chat, and then 5 seconds later, the live chat loads. So what that allows us to do is speed up the website, and it doesn't really impact it doesn't impact the functionality of the live chat software. It's just a little slower to load. We do we set up lazy loading for images and videos if it's appropriate for your website. So lazy loading is basically delayed loading of things. So they don't load until they appear on the screen. So, for example, if I scroll down here, these elements here may not necessarily, if they were lazy loaded, they wouldn't load until I scroll down. So we set that up with both videos, particularly like YouTube videos can be very heavy. So with lazy loading, the web browser doesn't go and download those videos until you scroll down to that part of the page. So it makes the page much lighter to initially load. We do some advanced image compression. So there is a newer file format called WebP. It's called a next generation image file format. Unfortunately, not all browsers support it. So typically you have JPEG, JPG files, and PNG files as the standard images on your website. So we can't just go and wholesale change all the images on the website to WebP file format, because that's going to break the website on a lot of older browsers and even some fairly recent and modern devices and browsers. So we have a technique we use to implement WebP image optimization. So we do that as well. So what that does, it significantly reduces the size of the page, particularly image heavy pages on some devices. And it doesn't affect the image quality at all. So all our image compression, we use lossless image compression. So there's really two types of compression: lossless and lossy. So lossless is same file size, same image quality, smaller file size, and lossy is smaller file size, slightly even more compressed, but it reduces the quality of the images. So we never want to sacrifice the quality of our images for a slight increase in speed. So that's why we always use the lossless type of compression, so we don't impact the quality of the images. And then we just do a general, if there's anything that's kind of against WordPress general best practices, we have a checklist we run through. So if there's anything there that's out of order, we'll fix that up as well. So that's an overview of this service. So typically the service takes 3 to 5 business days to complete. But some sites, particularly those that have a large number of images, you'll see this note here. If you have thousands of images, the compression of those can actually take a few days just for the images alone. So it might be a bit longer if you have a bigger website, or we have to do some back and forth. If you have any questions before ordering, just hit this email address, questions@wpspeedfix.com. And if you're ready to hit the go button now, just hit get started and you'll go to the checkout. And you select your options there and payment method, complete that checkout, and then you'll have a login created to our client area where there is a questionnaire, a bunch of questions we need to know, and we need logins and things like that before we can get started. So once you supply that information, the guys will go through and check those logins to make sure they're all current and they work. We'll install that backup plugin and we'll take a backup. Now, depending on the size of the website, that backup could take several hours. So we might not start that day. It might be the day after. So once we have the backup, then the guys get started and they start making changes. So I'll leave you with that. Like I said, if you have any questions, just hit that questions at wpspeedfix.com email address. Happy to come back to you. Typically, we work Australia. Well, most of the team is based in Australia. However, we do have some people in Europe and the US, but typically we work, for the most part, Australian business hours. So if you send us an email, generally we'll be back to you within one business day or during the Australian business hours. But yeah, I'll leave you with that. Thanks for checking out the site, and hope to catch you soon. Cheers.